All right, today we're going to do something a little different. Think of it like a digital detective story. We're going to pull back the curtain on the global financial system to investigate these, critical, almost invisible systems that make sure all the numbers we rely on are, well, actually correct. And it really all boils down to one simple, but honestly, super important question. In a world that is just built on data, what happens when the numbers, the very foundation of all our trust, what happens when they just don't line up? Okay, picture this. You check your banking app, it shows one balance. Then you go to an ATM, get a receipt, and it shows another. Maybe it's just off by like 45 cents, but that tiny little error, it makes you question everything, right? Now, just imagine that feeling, but scale it way, way up to the billion-dollar world of finance. A world where even the smallest mismatch can be a sign of a huge, massive problem. So that brings us to the first part of our investigation here. We need to understand the crime itself. And yep, in the world of finance, this kind of mismatch actually has a name. They call it a break. And a reconciliation break is, well, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a crack in the data, a difference between two official records that are supposed to be perfect mirror images of each other. Think of it as the system's way of throwing up a big red flag and saying, hey, something's not right here. So here's the core formula for a break in the really high-stakes world of finance. It's when a bank's own internal books, their ledger, doesn't match the records held by what's called a custodian. And a custodian is basically an external guardian for all those financial assets. We're not just talking about a simple typo here. This is a fundamental disagreement about what's actually real.
Okay, so a break is found. Now what? What happens next? Well, it triggers this whole standardized procedure, a super methodical investigation that our digital detective, the system, has to follow to solve every single case.
This whole investigation has four main stages. First up, identification. The system automatically spots the mismatch. Easy enough. Step 2, classification. It figures out what kind of problem it is. Like, is it about the quantity of a stock or something totally different? And then it assigns it to a real, human team. Then that team gets to work. They investigate, find the root cause, and resolve the issue. And finally, correction. A fix is entered into the system, and, this is key, every single step gets logged. This creates a perfect audit trail for regulators or anyone who needs to look back. Now, what's cool is that after investigating thousands, maybe millions of these cases, our digital detective starts to see patterns. You realize these breaks aren't just random. They're more like recurring culprits, each with its own very specific signature. They become the usual suspects of the data world. So let's line up these usual suspects. First, you've got a timing break. Super simple. One system gets the data today, the other one gets it tomorrow. Mismatch. Then there's a format break, which is kind of like a miscommunication, a translation error in the data itself. But the one you really got to watch out for is the fatal break. This is the serious one. It's an error in a core piece of information, like an account number or the unique code for a stock. To put it another way, it's like having the wrong address for a multi-million-dollar delivery. Yeah, not good. And by the way, this isn't just about stocks and bonds. Cash breaks happen all the time too. They're often caused by tiny, tiny differences in tax calculations or fees. The system actually has to be smart enough to know when a small currency fluctuation is totally fine versus when a difference points to a real problem. So this all begs the question, right? How on earth do you build a system that's robust enough to handle all of this chaos? Well, you need a solid blueprint. You need a clear set of architectural principles to create an effective digital detective. And it really comes down to 3 golden rules. Rule number 1, the detective can't alter the evidence. The system's job is to find errors, but it never, ever changes the official records itself. It's an independent watchdog. Rule 2, it has to learn from its mistakes. It generates reports to spot recurring problems, so you can fix the root cause. And third, it absolutely needs a foolproof way to track every single clue. And that last point brings us to the ultimate tool in our detective's toolkit. This is the big one. It's the one piece of evidence that guarantees complete, total, end-to-end traceability. So what is the key to tracking any transaction through its entire life cycle, through every change, every update? It's giving it something that no other transaction in the entire world has, its own unique digital fingerprint. This fingerprint has a name. It's called a Unique Transaction Identifier, or UTI for short, and it is meticulously constructed. You've got a prefix for the bank, a timestamp that's accurate down to the millisecond, and even special codes that track every single modification made along the way.
The whole thing is designed to be 100% globally unique. And here is the most important principle of all. Every transaction gets one core identifier when it's created, just one. And that ID is immutable. It can never, ever be changed. It's like its DNA. It creates this unbreakable chain of evidence that follows that transaction absolutely everywhere it goes for its entire life. Okay, so we've seen the crime, we've followed the investigation, we've even looked at the forensic tools. But let's be real. Why does any of this complex, hidden back-office stuff actually matter to you or me?
It matters because our trust, our entire trust in the financial world, is built on one simple belief, that the numbers are real. So from that 45-cent difference you might see in your bank account, all the way up to the trillions of dollars flying around the globe every day, it all depends on these invisible digital detectives working tirelessly behind the scenes, making absolutely sure that every single digit is correct.
You know, these systems really are the silent guardians of financial integrity. And that kind of leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? What other invisible systems, what other digital detectives are out there right now quietly working to keep our incredibly complex digital world from falling apart?